I haven't seen that for a while. It was pretty cool. That was my best goal. So if you look up my YouTube highlights, that's the best I've got. I'm a little worried though because when we were in there with the younger guys earlier, I made some references to soccer and there was just like crickets. So I'm like, gosh, these people, Luke, I don't know who you're getting here, but they don't like soccer. Is anyone out there an MLS fan, Major League Soccer? Praise the Lord. Okay, so the MLS Cup is happening right now. So that's how much you guys mean to me. I really want to watch the game. But so I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then there's one of my favorite things to do is to teach by way of sport. That was something that was obviously integral to my life. So tell you about myself, and then a little bit there, and then call it a day. So like I said, my name is Taylor Kemp. I work at the Augustine Institute. I'm the director of Formed, which is a faith-based streaming platform. If you've never heard of it, check it out. It's awesome. We have all kinds of stuff on there. I'm a convert. I became Catholic. I came into the church when I was 25 years old, when I was in the middle of playing professional soccer. I went to the University of Maryland. I was the #2 recruit coming out of high school. I was a parade All-American. I was on the cover of ESPN magazine when I was 16. And then I went on to play for the U18, the U20, and the full national team. I played in over 100 MLS games in over 10 countries. I had 18 months of injuries. When I was 27 years old, I had 2 major surgeries, and then I retired at the end of 2018. In the middle of that, I did not grow up religious at all. And then, you know, the very shorthand of my conversion story is I had constructed a life that I thought was going to deliver on a promise of happiness. Like, I'm sure so many people have a similar story, where you make your life what you want, and then you chase these things, and you eventually get there, and you get to the end of the rainbow, and you're like, there's just nothing there. And so I was called into the national team camps. I was getting great contracts and sponsorships, and I had never been less happy. I was anxious. I was terrified of life. I was wildly self-conscious. And through some very deep moral failures, was basically pushed into a position of like, I've gotten so much wrong, I have to look at a new path, and I had some incredible friends who showed me God. And so I'm sure that you guys are serving in that capacity for many people out there, and it changed my entire life. I absolutely fell in love with Jesus Christ and teaching about Him and about His church, and so I taught for the Denver Catholic Biblical School, and then it's been a joy to be at the Augustine Institute where I got my master's. Dr. Barber, who's talking, I think, after me, is one of the best professors I've ever had. He is an incredible teacher, but all the professors there changed my life, and now I am very happy to be working at the Augustine Institute. So that's the shorthand of my conversion story. I have no idea how much time I have, so we'll go quickly here. So I like to teach by way of athletic analogy. St. Paul did this in his letter to the Corinthians when he's talking about running a race, and so I'm going to do the same thing. So has anyone heard the phrase for sports that a coach can lose the locker room? Has anyone heard that? Yeah? Like, they'll say, like, if a team's doing terrible, they'll be like, the coach lost the locker room. So what that means is that the players don't trust the coach. That happens for 2 reasons, primarily. The first is the coach doesn't know what he's doing. He's incompetent. That's reason 1. He's not a good coach. The second reason, which is the more common reason, at least in professional athletics, is that the players now think that the coach is acting in his own interests and not for the good of the team. And so I went in professional sports. Like I said, I played for 6 years for DC United. There's a lot of ups and downs. We had good seasons and bad seasons. And there was a couple times in my years there where there was articles written. I remember one in 2015 coming up in the Washington Post. Steve Goff, who was our beat writer, he said, has Ben Olsen, our coach, has Ben Olsen lost the locker room? And I remember reading that. And I've been thinking a lot about that because I think that that can apply to God, and I think most of our society today actually feels that way. So back a couple hundred years ago, Friedrich Nietzsche, a very famous philosopher, said, God is dead and we have killed him. I think that's almost analogous to God lost the locker room. People stopped trusting him, they've given up, and they've moved on. So I've been thinking a lot about that. I feel like a lot of my friends and family feel that way. They're like, nope, can't trust him, I'm done with this, I'm moving on. And I was thinking about my sports experience when people were writing, has Ben Olsen lost the locker room? And what I remembered, regardless of if he actually, quote unquote, had, the leaders on the team, they were who held us together. They kept all the strings moving, And in 2015, we turned it around, and we ended up making the playoffs, and we had a great year. And it wasn't because anything Ben Olsen did. It was everything about the leaders on our team captain and these two other guys who were utterly convicted about where the team was going. They didn't care how bad it looked, and they were going there. And they carried the rest of us, and I was a younger guy on the team. And I was thinking about this huge conference of men, and how bad the church, we need that leadership. That there's people in the church that are like, I don't know, has God lost the locker room? Like, are we done here? And that there's people looking around at who's going to lead. That's that Archbishop Fulton Sheen quote. Who's going to lead and have so much conviction in the truths of the gospel, so much belief in Jesus Christ, so much utter reliance on the providence of God, that they basically have enough faith to carry the rest of them. And I look at this room, and it's like, that has to be us. I mean, that has to be men. Like, it has to be this kind of faith that carries the rest of the people that are like, I just don't know anymore. You think about when the paralytic is lowered through the roof, and Jesus says, he looks at the faith of the friends and heals the man. It's like, that's what we have to be. And so it's a joy to be with you. This is my first one of these coming here. I've known Luke for a long time, wherever he went. And it's amazing to see this because I didn't have good role models. I didn't have good men in my life. And especially growing up, and later on there was men that made an absolutely fundamental change in me. They brought about a change. The grace of God flowed through them. And when I look at this room, it's like, that's what this has to be. So it's been a joy to be with you guys. God bless you, and I'm grateful that we are all looking at ourselves honestly in the mirror and saying, how can we empower each other? How can we be more faithful to Jesus Christ? And how can we carry the faith of a world that is basically like, yeah, I'm just going to give up on this. So God bless you. Thank you so much.